Thanks a lot. Mr. Dartmouth.
I have to say, I think Mr. Tacula is being very modest because what he had to say was most interesting. And I'm not sure how much added value there ever is from anybody, including and especially myself. Can I echo what everyone else has said, which is to, on a personal level, to Monsieur Jadot, every success in his quest for the candidacy. Now, let's address the European Investment Bank. I had the honour, if honour is indeed the right word, to write this parallel opinion some years ago. And rather to my astonishment, I found that the European Investment Bank is actually run on reasonably okay commercial lines. And I do make this point, which perhaps will be confirmed by the gentleman from EIB, that and he doesn't have that much in the way of bad debts, but the more you impose on it, non-commercial goals, the more likely it is that you'll get bad debts, or that you'll get a higher level of bad debts. There's a bit of a trade-off. So just to say, we want this to do this, we want this to do that, we want this to fulfill our political objectives, it should be borne in mind that there's almost inevitably a cost attached to those. I didn't quite understand what the gentleman there said, and I apologise, I didn't have my translation on. But I would just point out that the UK has a 39 billion euro, or 16.1% share in the EIB. So obviously, until such time as we get our money back out of this, which I think is some years off, obviously how it's run is a matter of relevance and interest. And is therefore is worth saying. Now, you see again, it talks about the general principles guiding the Union's external action. If the EIB is to be run as an instrument of the European Union's foreign policy, and that leaves aside the whole question about whether the European Union actually has a foreign policy, but we'll leave that point aside. Obviously, it dilutes it being run along commercial lines. Point 3 here, I'm going to be actually very quick actually, is calls on the EIB to design ambitious action plans in order to strengthen its position in the phasing out of support for fossil fuels. Well, isn't that really a job, leaving aside the validity of that, isn't that really more of a job for an environmental engineer rather than for people with a computer sitting in Luxembourg? I would have thought that. And the same thing applies, and SMEs, the distinguished representative of the EPP group, acting as shadow rapporteur, made the point very well. Everybody's in favour of SMEs and SMBs being supported. We've heard this many, many, many times. However, the problem that SMEs have in every country is getting access to financing. So these pious thoughts are all very well, but it would be interesting to have some statistics about what proportion of what proportion in both numbers and value are lent to SMEs out of the EIB loan book. And I think we should know that, and it should be spelled out. And the fact is that it would appear that there is a problem of SMEs having access to credit. Now, we don't always often agree with the Greens, but we do agree on the matter of transparency. And on the matter of transparency here, the central point that comes across about what's important is the extent, is the quantum and the value of SMEs of SME loans, and what is the ability of SMEs to access loans from the EIB. And I finally want to finish up by just saying that the Asian Infrastructure Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, well, this was basically set up by China as a counter to the World Bank and as a vehicle for to project Chinese influence. And the White House National Security Council says, and this is just one sentence, based on many discussions, we in the White House have concerns about whether the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank will meet the high standards, particularly related to governance and environmental and social safeguards. So before going willy-nilly into some sort of an arrangement or cooperation with the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, it seems to me that there are a lot of questions that should be asked. And those questions should be asked in the Parliament, and they should be asked by the author of this opinion as well as others, actually. Because on your own agenda, there are significant concerns about the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And finally, I'll make my final point here. The European Investment Bank is headquartered in Luxembourg, which is the richest country per capita in the European Union. As we know, as you probably know, there are 2,200 Parliament employees in Luxembourg who would be much better placed in somewhere like Lyon or Bucharest or one of the many, many cities in the European Union which would welcome and value having 2,200 highly paid Parliament employees. And we now find that there's 2,900 people employed by the EIB. Now, I've been trying to find out how many of those are actually based in Luxembourg, and perhaps the gentleman there can tell me, because it seems to me that here is yet another European institution which will be welcomed by many, many, many cities and places in the EU, even perhaps Leipzig, let us say, for example. And there it is in the richest country by capita in the EU. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, we have to discuss the location of two European agencies quite soon. The EMA coming from London and the bank control system also coming from London.
But I suggest they don't go to Luxembourg. That's what I would say. It's none of my business, but if you want to put them in Luxembourg, it's up to you. It doesn't invalidate the point I've made, Mr. Chairman.
So we have the chance to relocate these agencies.